Welcome, Patriots, to this episode of Raven's Radar. It is wild and wet out here in the West today, and we're going to get through it. We got a lot of stuff to cover, so let's get right to it. If it's in your sights, it's on my radar. We'll be airborne shortly. Welcome, Patriots. It is another episode of Raven's Radar, so we've got to get right to the front lines. We've got to tell people what's going on and put the verbs in our sentences, what's happening, and what are we going to do about it. Well, if some of you are like me, you don't watch a lot of mainstream television for the same reason I don't drink out of the toilet. But here's what we've got going on. The first thing that I'd like to cover is this episode of Extreme Racism Says Hold My Beer, we've got Sheila Jackson Lee. She is a congresswoman I refuse to claim here in Texas, but she is proposing a bill. She's proposing a bill that targets white people. It is ridiculous, but the premise of it, Patriots, is that she's proposing to have some kind of bill or amendment that charges, I want to make sure I get this right, where a white person can be charged for speech that is deemed hateful. Hate speech. I know. I know, Patriots. I know what you're thinking. It is the most absurd thing you could possibly imagine. And like me, a lot of you are probably wondering, do any of these people in Congress have to actually read the Constitution or the Bill of Rights? Are they putting their hands on a Dr. Seuss book, or is it still a Bible? I really just can't even with this. You're talking about infringing on the free speech. That is the first constitutional American right. I mean, even if you didn't get to read the other 10, you should know that the first one protects free speech. That's how it goes. It's not hate speech because you hate what somebody is saying, despite the fact that the left really wants to put it that way. It is hate speech, okay, when it incites violence and encourages acts of violence against people. But again, this crusade that the Democrats are on to basically shred our Constitution, some using it for toilet paper, some dipping it in their vodka. Whatever the case, we have too many people here who feel like instead of doing the people's work and actually governing and getting a balanced budget and passing legislation that works and doing their job, would rather be engaged in this kind of ridiculous reverse racism, anti-social policy nonsense that wastes taxpayer money and basically erodes any confidence the American people have in the government doing their business. This is ridiculous. It's crazy. How do you do? So who determines what is hate speech? Is it Sheila? I hope not. So my point is that we have got to stop this. All they are doing now is they are swinging the pendulum hyper the other way. We are trading what people of color dealt with during dark chapters of our history, and we will now swing the pendulum by making white people the victim of this kind of targeting, bullying, harassment, and segmentation. It is ridiculously insane. And I encourage any patriot, whether you're in Texas or not, to give Sheila Jackson Lee a call and let her know how garbage this is, and ask her if she could, by some miracle, an act of God, actually do her freaking job and protect the people in Texas with real legislation. So that is on the, how do we define a racist? Say you're a racist without saying you're a racist. We also have going on, apparently, in the next, speaking of free speech, I always get this wrong, guys, so let's get the alphabet soup right. The LGBTQ community, of which I subscribe to, let's get Biden to quit. You with me? But the LGBTQ community, trans groups, are now speaking out against Aretha Franklin. Okay? This is today's episode of What Could I Possibly Find to Be Offended By? I happen to be a fan of Aretha Franklin. She has an incredible story, and her music was supreme. Absolutely beyond talented artist, musical artist, and pioneer in the field. But apparently, trans groups are up in arms right now over the song Natural Woman. I know, it's hard to keep up. Didn't we just get through the baby it's cold outside? Well, we're to this now. So we are basically now, the groups are saying they want natural woman removed. It's offensive. I gotta tell you, patriots, here I go with this. You guys like it when I get going. I'm about to get going. You know what? Just stop. I'm going to really lay it down. Here's where I'm going to piss off a lot of people, because I am a natural woman. I am a natural woman. I like the song. I like the song Ebony Eyes. My eyes are dark. I'm just going to go down the line and see how many people we can trigger. Okay? I can't with this. Guys, we have real problems. We have crippling inflation. We have a president who doesn't know what day it is, where he is, or how to walk cohesively up the stairs to Air Force One. We have sky-high gas. Our border is wide open. We have mass shootings. We have all this stuff going on. And the contribution to society by these trans groups is we're offended by natural woman. We're offended by people who were born with 2 sets of X chromosomes. We are offended by women who can naturally give birth and do things that women do. We're offended by that. It's offensive to say that I am a woman. And I can tell you unequivocally, I don't care. Okay, I am a woman. I know what a woman is, unlike a lot of people we have, some on the Supreme Court. I know what a woman is. I've got it. I tell my husband often, there aren't many perks to being a woman, but I consider the good with the bad, and this is one of them. And one of them is being a natural woman. So to whoever that offends, I'll go even further. Real women aren't men. Okay? I'll see myself out. I just want to remind patriots that this is the kind of ridiculousness. I will sum it up by saying, in Texas, we have a saying, when things go wrong at the rodeo, we send in the clowns. That's what you're seeing. This is smoke and mirrors on an epic scale. Anyways, patriots, we have to do better than this. And when I say do better than this, here's the action statement I'd like to give to patriots for all of this, is do what I do, is put your earplugs in and move forward. This is what the left wants us to engage in. They want to take us left and right. They want us worried about the color of certain things and, pride flags and all this kind of other stuff. I have nothing against anybody in the gay community. Some of the best people I know are gay. Some I don't know, and most and all I don't care. It's you do you. You have the right in this America to do what feels right for you. What I am strictly talking out about is I am so incredibly sick and tired of the perpetual outrage that comes with certain people who confuse entitlements with rights. There are certain rights, okay? You have the right to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. You have that right. You have the right as an adult to decide what course of action works best for you, okay? You do not have the right to cram it down my throat. You do not have the right to tell me and demand that I think and feel and act a certain way. You do not have the right to ask everybody to cow down because you are perpetually offended by absolutely everything. That is not a right. Okay, you can ask me if you prefer to be called something, and I have the right to accept or decline. That is how rights work. Rights mean that you don't get a say in it. Those are constitutionally guaranteed, and they are protected for adults. You do not have the right to force your doctrine and your thoughts and your beliefs down the necks of children and our most vulnerable. Children at a certain age can decide what and how they want to live their lives. That is a conversation for another time. So I just want to clarify that. I absolutely love all people. Well, not all people. I love most people, I should say. We love most people, but I just want to clarify that. Rights and entitlements. What we're talking about today is rights. You don't have the right to make legislation that infringes on the rights of other people. Sheila Jackson Lee should know that. You have the right to be offended by a song. You actually even have the right to go on live television and make an ass of yourself by making a big deal of it. But I would choose to show Aretha the respect for the pioneer she was and say it's a beautiful song. I would suggest that the people who are going to be perpetually offended move on to whatever the next is. For in other news, the wind is blowing and I breathed. So those are a couple of things to get them started. Patriots, we are running to the front line of the war to take our country back, the fight to take our country back, and it is glorious. So I hope if I've impressed upon Patriots nothing else, that it's a good time to be fired up. It's a good time to be spicy, and we can do this. And we're going to be bringing on a guest to show you exactly how we're going to do it this week. Stay tuned.
Make your Yuletide memories huge this Christmas with the Tweeter of the Free World Covfefe Table Book, the perfect gift for all seasons. Retweet to a simpler time when our flag had only 3 colors, schools had 2 genders, the border was real, and inflation was reserved for party balloons celebrating low crime, low taxes, and affordable food and gas for all. Now you can reminisce over the good old days when our only issues were Russia, fake news, witch hunts, and crooked Hillary. The Tweeter of the Free World has all of Trump's greatest tweets, including Benghazi, fake news, Barack Obama, and who could forget Little Rocket Man?
But it is much bigger and more powerful one than his, and my button works.
The Covfefe Table Book will be cherished for generations. Relive the greatest tweets of all time by the greatest president of all time. Go to thetweeterofthefreeworld.com now to get your copy for the low price of $39.99.
Make your Christmas great again.
Welcome back, Patriots. Thank you for joining us on this episode of Ravens Radar. We have an incredibly dynamic show for you today. We have a guest who is going to light it up. You guys know I like to bring the fire breathers to the front line, and in this case, the front line is the border. So we are going to be bringing in Jaco Booyens, and he's got an incredible story, Patriots. He's going to be highlighting the incredible dangers that are occurring on our southern border, and he has a personal perspective you are not going to want to miss. So let me welcome Jaco to the show.
Raven, thank you for having me on the show.
I am so excited. Will you start by telling our Patriots, I don't want to really steal the thunder because your story is incredible. The story of your sister, the story of the work you do in sex trafficking. I don't want to diminish it or dilute it in the slightest. Will you tell our Patriots and listeners a little bit about how you came to this fight?
Yeah, 28 years ago, when I was 18 years old, my sister was 12 at the time. We were raised by a single mom, and Ilanka was trafficked. She was a sex traffic victim for a period of 6 years. So that put us as a family on a trajectory to fight trafficking around the world. And then since 2001, we've been focusing on combating sexual exploitation of children in the U.S.
That is horrific. So we will, people are, and I feel like that's even giving it a softball term to call it sex trafficking. It's rape slavery. Explain to our listeners what happens in your house when your 12-year-old daughter is just missing and taken, and you don't know where she is, and I can't imagine the stories that she told you when she came back, when you were able to get her back.
Yeah, look, it's very difficult to learn through your sister what men had done to her. And at that time, no one around the world was focusing on human trafficking, sexual exploitation of minors, right? So it's a tough season to go through. Unfortunately, today, kidnapping is only 1% of the crime in the US. So the fastest growing form of sex trafficking is familial trafficking, where family members are selling their own children. We're the number one nation on earth commercializing sex with children, child rape. We're the number one nation paying for it. We've got the highest demand. That's all 50 states, every county, every neighborhood. And now you have a southern border that's wide open, not porous, it's wide open. We're coercing children to come from nations around the world to come into America. The predators in America think it's Super Bowl every day because kids are coming in that are basically ghost children. No one is looking for them. But we have a problem of our own children being trafficked. There's a massive epidemic of our own children being sexualized in the media, in the classroom, and by predators. So when a president of the United States says we can handle the world's children, he's lying to the world.
That is it, Jaco. That is the bullet, Patriots. I wanted them to hear that again. So Jaco has given us the horrific that comes in, what is happening to these children. Now let's talk about the border being wide open. I was just in El Paso. I've been to the other border. And what does it do to you to hear the press secretary saying that the border is closed? The border is not open. The border is open. Okay, it is open for business because we know that drugs are coming through it. We know that these children are coming through. Jaco, I've seen the bracelets that have come off of these children. They're so small, they come off of the wrist. Okay, but what they're indebted to the cartels to. So the people who say to you, Jaco, these people are coming for a better life. They just want to work and contribute to our society. Please shed some light on how the ridiculousness of that statement.
Yeah, look, Raven, we've been fighting human trafficking for 28 years. In 28 years, you learn a lot. Okay, I've dealt with open borders in Africa. I've dealt with open borders in the Balkan states. There's a way. Predators move in when human beings migrate. So you got to think about this. We now know that 60% of children that will approach the border of the U.S. today have already been sexually exploited in journey to our border. So we're enticing, coercing, defrauding families to take a 900,000-mile journey to the U.S. through the cartel. They're being raped by the cartel. They're being plundered by the cartel, extorted, force, fraud, coercion, which is the definition of trafficking. So the White House has produced the largest human trafficking movement known to man before they arrive to our border.
And that's
then when they cross the border,
that's this White House, this administration, because didn't you drafted the 3 executive orders that President Trump put in to combat this trafficking, which Biden rolled back within his first 10 days of office, correct?
Yeah, look, President Trump was the first president in American history. That includes both the Bushes, the Clintons, the Obamas. He's the first president that acknowledged the sexualization of children in America from the White House. He's the first president that opened an office inside the White House to combat sex trafficking. He signed that executive order, and that was rescinded by Biden. So we have to understand, we are coercing people to come to fall into the hands of predators. We know the cartel is raping mothers in front of the children in Mexico, so the child will stay silent and not say a word and will comply to sex trafficking in the US. This is happening on the hands of Joe Biden, Mayorkas, who are bold-faced liars, absolute liars. 2 weeks before the president stood in El Paso, I stood on the very same spot where he stood. And it was anarchy. It looked like a third world nation. They came in, they rounded up all the homeless, all the children. They took them to a tent camp in the desert, cleaned the streets so that America would see a clean border.
And
It's
he
both
saw
ways lie.
nothing. And I was in El Paso too. I was there 2 days before. He didn't do it. It looked like they had people trying to charge for free parking. It was ridiculous. It looked like a tourist destination. But 3 days before, it looked like a horrific cyclone. It looked like the aftermath. There was trash, there were tents, there were migrants knee deep, up and down. They emptied the processing facility, and he actually got on camera. Oh, I didn't see anything. You probably didn't, because they used that emergency resource money. They said they declared an emergency when we all saw 950 pouring across the border in El Paso. And then how much of that money was used to clean up and sanitize and whitewash the city so that the problem didn't exist? That was a horrific, horrific display. We deserved to show these people, they got me preaching in here, deserved to show these people what was really happening from a problem he created, and they whitewashed it. So thank you, Jaco. And you've been to and that's even the soft part of the border. You've been to the places the rest of us have been, Eagle Pass, where the real dirt is cut through. Because
Raven, I came back from Eagle Pass yesterday, but even Eagle Pass is the wrong conversation. Anything close to a POE, a point of entry, is soft. Go to Hudspeth County, Texas, where it hasn't seen Border Patrol in 10 months. You can drive a nuclear bomb across the American border and no one would know. Okay? Remember, the majority of the land that is border property is private property. Nobody is patrolling that property. Nobody. We've got criminal elements coming across our border. We have no idea what's crossing this border.
That's correct. And that's a good point that you make about the property. I've spoken to people who own property down there. They are despondent. I mean, their land is being trashed. Their kids aren't safe to go out and play. They've got people starting fires, trashing their yards, breaking in, trying to charge their cell phones. You know, how do people who are on a 3,000-mile trek on foot get brand new cell phones? So that's Biden. Okay, so that's where we kind of are. So you just got back. So you've been traveling around. Tell our listeners and our viewers the work you're doing right now to combat this disaster.
Yeah, we're busy with a documentary called Borders to Bridges. And I take a biblical perspective to say, look, there's 27 different scriptural references we pull from why borders is needed. And yes, we can build bridges of compassion, but you must first hold the other countries accountable for taking care of their people. Who's holding the Mexican president accountable for allowing children to be raped in his country and then just passing them through? Who's holding him accountable for sending all these homeless across the border, emptying the prisons in Mexico, sending them across the border? Nobody's holding him accountable. You think they're talking about this at Davos at the moment? No, they're not. They're all in on it. They want to destabilize this country. They're lying to the world. They're lying to the people who's in transit. No one's telling the mother that's leaving Guatemala today that your daughter's going to get raped. And you're going to get, right. Exactly. So it's accountability hour in this country.
And accountability on both sides. So for the ones who want to give us a softball of, well, they're here for, it doesn't matter, okay? A country without borders is not a sovereign country. We are the only country that is not protecting their borders like this. And we actually put in this omnistrosity money to help Middle Eastern and other countries protect their borders. And we have language written into our omnibus, 1.6 billion, which is not allowed to be used to secure the border. So just understand the people who are doing this, listeners, are trying to destabilize us. They're trying to get your eyes off the ball, which is you can't come through. There are no ports of entry in the middle of the river. Okay. And if these people wanted to become Americans and wanted to contribute to the American dream, they would not be starting their American dream by breaking our immigration laws. And when they come here and they're indebted to the cartels and they have these bracelets showing an amount of money or what they're owed, where are they supposed to recoup that money? So how are they supposed to pay back the cartels once they're in the interior of our country using the health system, the schools, the roads, the infrastructure? Okay, that's what people need to start looking at. It is a disaster. Where can people watch, or when does the documentary come out?
The documentary, Borders to Bridges, will be out end of March. Ask people to go to helpjbm.org. That's our organization, Jaco Booyens Ministries, helpjbm.org.
So that is Juliet Bravo Mike. For those, JulietBravoMike.org to see the documentary, and it is going to be a barn burner, guys. You're going to want to see this. This will open your eyes, and that's what we need to do. We have to, you can't fix what you don't acknowledge. So we have to acknowledge this is a problem, and then we have to hold our elected officials to task. Guys, they've got us gaslighting. What do we want to talk about? Well, we don't like Aretha Franklin put out a song that makes us feel. Who cares? Okay, do your job, balance the budget, secure the border, okay, and stop being complicit, okay, in this trafficking and fentanyl and drugs and everything that is coming. And we are in one of the epicenters for sex trafficking, aren't we, Jaco?
Yeah, unfortunately, Texas ranks number one, Dallas number one, not just in the nation, but at the moment in the world. So, you know, we can send $90 billion that we can't track to the Ukraine. But for some reason, our border's open. It's open because they want it open.
That is exactly it. And this is not like degrees of being like, you know, she's kind of pregnant. She is or she isn't. The border is either secure or it's not. And we know under President Trump that the border was secure. The crossings are at the highest number, fentanyl, the highest number. Sex trafficking exploding. And those of us who live in Texas, we can see the results of it. We can see it when we go out to grocery shop, you know, assuming there's anything in the shelves, we can see it. So this is what I'm so glad to have guests like this, Patriots. I want to bring you these frontline fighters because this is not a bureaucracy. This should be telling people what we need to do. And in that vein, Jaco, I'm a real put the verbs in the sentences gal. This is where we tell them what they can do. So tell our listeners and our viewers what we can do to stem this and change the tide of this and get some action.
Yeah, please go to our website because there you can really be armed with the information. How do you fight at the local level? Letters that need to go to your congressmen, your senators. But I'll tell you this about American politicians. And it's all the parties, libertarians, Democrats, Republicans.
Yes.
They live in self-preservation. They only move when you press the dickens out of them. When they think they're going to lose their job, that's when they move. We've given them a free ride. It's time to make their lives uncomfortable.
I do that better than anybody. Tell them, Patriots, we know how this gets down, but I'm telling you, that's what I tell people. If we're the majority, why are we silent? It's time, one phone call, no. But if you have not talked to your politicians, if you don't know what they're voting for, do you know they're voting to try to raise the debt ceiling for this omnistrosity they passed? No go. Balance the budget. Can you imagine trying to get a job, Jaco? If you can't balance the budget, you know, what are your qualifications? Well, I've printed, you know, a couple $1 trillion and, you know, I've left the border wide open and, you know, basically, but I'm protected by the same armed security I'm trying to strip away from everybody else. See how that works? the guys, this is what it is. So Jaco is right on target of get involved. If you don't know who your legislators are, if you don't know who your state reps are, if you don't know what they're voting on, if you don't know that they're not voting for this, if you're not pressing them to restore this, then that's part of the problem. So get involved. He rescinded President Trump's efforts to combat this. So guys, it's time to get noisy. And again, for one more time for our Patriots, Jaco, let them know about the documentary. Where can we reach you? Where can we get involved in the fight? I want to make sure everybody has this information.
Documentary is called Borders to Bridges, end of March. Get all your information at help Juliet Bravo Mike, JBM.org.
Help Julio Bravo Mike, we're getting it, .org. So I encourage you all to, these are the times. You were made for this time. Get on board. If you can't be on the front line, support those of us who are. We always say that. Jaco, it has been an absolute amazing honor to have you on the show today. Thank you so much. Can we bring you back for an update on the efforts to combat this?
Absolutely. Thank you.
Looking forward to it. Well, Patriots, I wasn't kidding. I told you it was going to be this kind of a fight. We're going to get in there, but these are the guys we want on our side. I'm so glad he's on our side. So thank you. Stay tuned.
Make your Yuletide memories huge this Christmas with the Tweeter of the Free World Covfefe Table Book, the perfect gift for all seasons. Retweet to a simpler time when our flag had only 3 colors, schools had 2 genders, the border was real, and inflation was reserved for party balloons celebrating low crime, low taxes, and affordable food and gas for all. Now you can reminisce over the good old days when our only issues were Russia, fake news, witch hunts, and crooked Hillary. The Tweeter of the Free World has all of Trump's greatest tweets, including Benghazi, fake news, Barack Obama, and who could forget Little Rocket Man?
But it is much bigger and more powerful one than his, and my button works.
The Covfefe Table Book will be cherished for generations. Relive the greatest tweets of all time by the greatest president of all time. Go to thetweeterofthefreeworld.com now to get your copy for the low price of $39.99.
Make your Christmas great again.
Thank you so much, Patriots, for tuning in for this episode of Ravens Radar. I promised you epic, didn't I? We are going to get it. I want Patriots to be encouraged. This is what it's like on the front lines. As much as we want to look around and go, my gosh, what is happening with this world? We also have to take a step to remember that we were made for a time such as this. We were put here for a specific time to wage this fight. And I don't know about you guys, but it's an exciting time to be fire. It's an exciting time to be a fire breather. So I invite those of you who are ice people to keep a safe distance. It's going to be a great ride. Join us again for the next episode of Ravens Radar. I want to encourage you to reach out to me. Come out and see us at ravenharrison.com. We have the podcast, which is on all platforms at Ravens Radar, and you can find me on social media at Raven, the Conservative Warrior. You're going to be seeing information on our website coming out about the book, Raven's Mantle, taking it right to the heart, Patriots. Parents inside the Pentagon at 9/11, being at the Vegas massacre, being alive during the Cold War, 2 Colonel parents. It's a story you don't want to miss, and I'm going to give it to you raw, unfiltered, and ready to go. We've got our battle plan set, and we're going to make it happen. We can do this. We'll see you on our next episode.